Welcome to Build a NeuroNinja. So we're deep in the Unleashing Learning pack, and this video is really helpful if you've just plunged into the school holidays. Obviously holidays are fantastic and it's great to rest our brains, but our brains don't recognize holidays. So all that fantastic stuff you learnt last term, unless you spend a little bit of time going back over it, we're not talking about hours and hours and hours, we're talking about a few minutes each day, you can make sure those memories are much more secure. So let me introduce you to a daily memory building strategy called the box flashcard system. And you're going to need some boxes. They maybe don't need to be like that. They could just be plastic boxes and some flashcards, ideally some different coloured flashcards. So the first thing that we need to remind ourselves of is that learning is three processes, not one. Learning is not going to occur in one single moment. It's going to occur over a number of hours, days and weeks. So learning occurs when we are taught something and we get it and we go, yes, I've understood those tricky genetic words, or yes, I've got fractions. That's getting it, but that isn't learning it. Learning is also practicing it. That's encoding it into the physical structure of our brain. And then learning is using it, pulling that information back out of memory and deploying it to answer questions in class, to do past papers, exams, or using it in new situations. And in the architecture of the brain, it's really important that we remember that our brain tries to make it easier for us to do things that we do repeatedly. So look at that neuron on the left. The neuron is the base unit of the brain. There are 86 billion of these. That electrical impulse moving down that neuron is called an action potential. And that one on the left is learning something for the first time. The connections between it and the neurons either side of it, the synapses aren't very strong at the moment. And as you can see, the information doesn't move very fast and it doesn't actually reach the bottom of that neuron. Whereas the one on the right has gone through a process of not only understanding the work, but also encoding it or practicing it through repeat activation of that neuron. If you repeatedly activate the same neuron, it grows insulation, which means the information travels more quickly, 10 times more quickly. So that means the information is encoded into the structure of our brain, and it takes a certain number of repetitions to do that. So what happens when we sleep is deep in the brain is a structure called the hippocampus, and any neurons that have been used heavily during the course of the day can get refired by the hippocampus and bound together in a memory structure. So memory is stored across the brain, in the visual cortex, in the auditory cortex, in the area of the brain that was thinking about the fractions. That's all bound together by refiring by the hippocampus overnight. And that happens when we sleep, particularly during NREM sleep, non-rapid eye movement sleep, when we're deeply asleep. So if we want memories to survive, we're going to need to go over stuff. And particularly if we're coming out of a long term and we've learnt a bunch of stuff, if we look back briefly at some of those ideas, and what I'm going to suggest is you made 4 or 5 flashcards a day based on notes that you'd taken or a revision guide of stuff that you've already learnt, in order to capture that information. So, you could use different coloured flashcards for different subjects. So you'll know the basis of a flashcard. One side's got the detail of what the concept or key idea is, and the other side has got a definition. So here's one for physics. Physics is blue, specific heat capacity, and you've got a definition there, the amount of energy required to heat 1 kilogram of substance 1 degree. Just repeat that a few times. We've got a biology one here, the word homozygous and what that means. So you create 3 or 4 flashcards, make them nice and simple like this. You can buy different colour flashcards, blue for physics, green for biology. You can choose the colours. And then once you've got your coloured flashcards, allocated a subject to a colour, rotate the subjects, make 5 flashcards a day for each of the subjects. So that means just 5 flashcards. So science one day, and then history another day, and then English quotes another day. And you put those flashcards, you mix them up, you put them in a box, and you read them each day. So you spend 5 minutes making flashcards and 5 minutes reading flashcards. And if you repeat them, they will just go in. You just need to read them out loud, literally just read them out loud. And then you use the box system like this. So the ones on the left, in the box on the left of your desk, they aren't known yet, those flashcards, so they need to be read every day. The ones in the middle, once they've started to go in and you know them, you can move them to the middle box. And then On the right hand side, you move all the flashcards that have really gone in and maybe just need to be checked out every couple of weeks. Now that is a production line, a system that you can run throughout the year, but particularly you can then get those boxes out and recycle the information during the course of the summer holidays or any holiday where you're not going to be using those neurons that often. If you don't use a neuron for a while, the brain starts deleting the information that's contained in that connection, because it works on the basis of, if we're not using it, we'll repurpose that neuron, that connection, for some other piece of information. So spend 5 minutes a day making about 5 flashcards, and then 5 minutes a day learning those, and quiz yourself once a week. And if you're a parent or carer listening to this, support your son or daughter by supportively nagging them to do that, and then quiz them on the flashcards. And if you interleave the flashcards, the different colours for the different subjects in the box, that's also very powerful for your brain, because it spaces out the different sorts of practice for the different subjects. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.